Hey guys, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL and welcome back. Now, I've noticed something lately. It's something that's been kind of hiding in plain sight my entire life. And it's something that caused me to start reflecting on my own past, on my own history as an artist, as an evolving professional. And what sparked this, what kind of got the ball rolling on this frame of thought and this new perspective on myself, and what I feel will probably resonate with you a lot, for a lot of you, is some of the videos that have been surfacing from different creators, from different content creators on YouTube, specifically on YouTube, from many different creative venues, from technical video production to more artistic video production to photography to illustration to voice acting to acting, stage acting and things like that. I've been listening to a lot of these different artists who have been starting to follow this trend of turning off the fancy lights and just kind of being themselves and talking about their history and what got them to where they did and what they had to realize along the way to find the success that they found. And these are generally people that are fairly well known, have made good names of themselves worldwide. Talking about their past, they were talking about their professional history. And one of the things that took a little bit of bravery but was very appreciated by me to hear them say was how, in the mainstream sense of the word, when it came to working as professionals, in the mainstream sense of the word, for the longest time, they weren't very successful. In fact, they felt very much like they didn't belong. Like there was something, they didn't quite fit the mold of mainstream professionals in their field. And it was really nice to hear them say that, because I related to that. And I think this is something that I need to share with you. This is something that about myself that I had to realize and come to terms with, because it was a real source of doubt and conflict within myself. It was something that made me actually question whether or not I had a learning disorder or whether there was some issue with me, which there very well could be for all I know. But the thing is, and it's something I've kind of tapped on in videos in the past, for the longest time, I tried to fit in to the mainstream studio setting as a professional. I tried to, be able to adapt myself to different types of projects and different types of styles. And it always felt like a struggle for me. It always felt like I was really, really pulling teeth to kind of just to manage what was asked of me. And more often than not, I felt it was a lot easier for me to fail than to succeed. And I'm not just speaking subjectively, it's not an interpretation. In a lot of cases, I really feel that was the case. I really do honestly feel that I didn't really belong. And it's this very realization about myself as an artist and as a professional that was kind of the foundation for the video that I posted a little while back, talking about whether or not you are studio material, in quotes. And listening to them talk, listening to these professionals talk, these are all people that are really looked up to. These are all producers and professionals that are well respected. They're given many opportunities now, but throughout their career didn't necessarily fit a mold. And there's something very ironic about that. It's something very ironic that content creators that are roughly around the same age as me, 30s to 40s and stuff like that. And it's very interesting and ironic to hear them say that when if you step back, you gotta kind of realize these are artists. There's a mold for artists. I mean, where did this come from? Where did this belief come from? This mold. In fact, if I reflect back on, if we go back even 40, 50 years, not that long ago, back to when my mom was working when my mother was a fine artist, my father was a fine artist, and there was no mold. There was, you're an artist and you express yourself in this way, and let's see what you make of it. And the success or the failure of an artist had to do with how commercially catchy their stuff was, or whether or not their artwork resonated with a certain type of clientele. It was a very kind of, being an artist was a very personal endeavor, and you had a very personal type of audience. Now, of course, there were illustrators. Illustration was considered more of the commercial art. And, you know, illustration was more for people who were doing studio stuff, kind of like what we see most artists doing nowadays in video game and film production stuff. But there was a much more, there was a greater distinction between these different professions. And for me, growing up and getting into studios and trying to make a name for myself, and to be completely honest, you know, trying to succeed in school, I did make my best efforts in school. But that's the thing. I got into the professional world and I'd work in different studios. Some of them got along great and I was appreciated, but a lot of them, no. And I didn't make the cut and I got sacked. And getting sacked was kind of something that I just kind of came to expect at a certain point. And that was my opinion of myself. There was some magic ingredient in who I was as an artist, despite my greatest efforts, that just didn't make the cut. And to the point where I can reflect back on actual physical times where I remember either nearing or just crossing the threshold of being fired. You know, where somebody said, "I'm sorry, Adam, you know, you don't fit the company culture," or, you know, "We're looking for somebody with a slightly different expertise," you know, whatever diplomatic way of saying you're sacked. And that feeling, looking back at my colleagues or looking back at the office, the space that I occupied for whatever period of time, and looking back and going, these are now going to become strangers to me. I'm moving on and they're staying. And all of these people were accepted into this community of artists, and I've been alienated. And that really stuck with me. Now, why I stuck it out and why I continued to try to train and get better and go back to school and practice and improve and try again and reinvent myself and blah, 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 the whole rat race that I went through just to try to make a name for myself, didn't really necessarily improve my chances. In fact, it made me feel more and more alienated from myself. It made me less and less in touch with what it was that I loved in the first place. All I knew was deep down inside, I had a love, and I was going to stick it through hell or high water. Even though the majority of my relationship with it was pretty shitty when it came to working in studios, I stuck it out. And I stuck it out. And I stuck it out. And then I had these little brief, fleeting moments of success. And the success is funny. The success came in kind of unexpected places. At a certain point, I was just trying to make ends meet. I was just trying to make money. I decided to start a swing and jive dance venue. I know I've spoken about that in the past. And I didn't have any expectations. I didn't have any resources. I was quite literally piss broke to the point where I was looking around trying to find holes in my winter coat pocket in the middle of summer so that I could get 25 cents and buy a cigarette at the corner store. That kind of broke, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you smokers can relate to that too. I'm an ex-smoker, that is. But yeah, and with nothing, just my imagination and some elbow grease, I started a venue and got a DJ and got a space and, you know, then got it and had access to a bar and a beautiful dance floor and some lighting and some shit and a little bit of promotion and advertising done myself online and collaborating with a couple of other schools. I opened up the effing doors and hundreds of people come walking in through the door. And everybody got paid and I got a big chunk of change at the end of the day, and I'm sitting there going, wow. Not only was I a bit gobsmacked that I actually succeeded, that I actually filled a venue with schools and dancers, but I did well. Like it was kind of easy. That was actually really easy. Like, what the hell, right? And yeah. So, but as I mentioned before in the past, I'm not a dancer. I'm not a dance professional. I am an artist, and this is where I'm committing myself to. So, so I decided to not invest anymore. When people started complaining about location and transportation stuff like that, I was like, okay, let it go. And I kind of let it slide, and I let it die a natural death. But I had absolute control over that situation. It was the first time in my life where my efforts were actually going somewhere, and the only reason why it dissolved was because I let it go. I said, no, I don't want it anymore, and I let it go. But I had complete control over that situation. And what did I do? Well, I went back to to trying to pursue a studio job in art. And again, I got some pretty prestigious titles, and I worked as an art director in certain places and supervisors, and I worked in some big name studios for big name clients and shit like that. Some of them did great, some of them didn't, and I got sacked from these really nice jobs too. And it was like back to me feeling like shit. And it's funny because the one easy success that I got, which I consider easy when you compare it to all the hardship I went through to try to find success in the thing that I thought was the way to the main type of job I should have been doing. I completely took it for granted. It was a fleeting thought. The dance venue came and went, and that was the end of it. It was gone. And I went on to trying to fit the mold again and again and again, until a certain point back in 2014. And that's where I reached a turning point. It was at a point in my life where not only was my career falling apart, but my life was also falling apart too. And there was a lot of other things in my life that were just completely failing on me. And I hit that burnout point. I hit that point where I had felt where any hope, any dreams and any hope that I had was let go of. Whatever was holding me up, whoever was holding up that rope for me, let it go and let me fall. And I fell hard, and I felt completely, I hit rock bottom, and I had absolutely nothing left. And I wallowed in self-pity for around 3-4 months. I didn't know what to do with myself. And the only thing I was holding on to, the only thing I had been holding on to up until that point was, you'll never give up. You're not a quitter, right? That was the only thing. But then at a certain point, I sat there and I said, you know what, Adam? It's time to fucking quit. It's time to quit. Stop. You've tried, and you failed. And it was in admitting defeat. It was in no longer holding my head up, letting it fall into the wet mud and accept my fate and breathe mud bubbles and slowly accept suffocating to death because I lost, I failed. That all of a sudden the air cleared up. All of a sudden some haze, some illusion faded away, and all of a sudden the sky became clear in front of me, and I went, I've only failed at one thing. I failed at fitting into a clique. I failed at fitting into the popular crowd. I failed at fitting into that AAA studio. I failed at fitting in with those guys with the tattoos and the dreads and the cool attitudes, and the girls with the makeup and the dry attitudes, and I failed at befriending them. I failed at impressing them. But that's all I failed at. And I stood back up and I said, Adam, it's time for you to do whatever the hell you feel like doing. What do you want to do? What do you like? What do you love? What matters to you? Who are you? What are you made of? What do you have to offer? And I realized that in order for me to truly shine, in order for me to truly become, for my particular personality type, whatever personality type that is, I can't limit myself to fulfilling the demands of other people for the sake of fulfilling the demands of other people. That I've always been somebody who thrived in exploration, thrived in learning, thrived in experimentation, but most of all, really thrived at doing his own thing. And that was a hard realization for me to make, because that's selfish, that's self-centered, that's narcissistic, like it's trying to tailor the world to your own little whims because you're too freaking lazy to do the hard work. That's how I interpret that. At that particular turning point in my life, I was doing what I interpreted as being selfish. But I did it anyways, because screw it. I failed at everything else. I didn't regard it as being a responsible decision to pursue my own thing and build my own thing. I did it in spite of what I interpreted it as being. I was kind of taking a walk onto the wrong side of the road. But fuck it. I've tried everything else. And I allowed myself to be myself. And the moment I did that, the moment I made that conscious decision in my life to do that, my path became immediately evident. Not only did my path become immediately evident, but how to do it became evident. Where to go with it, how to do it, why to do it, and what my motivation behind doing it was. And I started a school. Because despite how much I sucked at life, I loved teaching. Despite how much I failed in studios, I knew art. So I did it. And as soon as I did that, it was almost surreal how immediately the path ahead of me became clear. Because I let go of the expectation, and I instead started to focus on me. I started to focus on my qualities. All of these fiddly little personal things that made me who I was, that I had accumulated over the years, all these little skills that I picked up on the side while I was trying to pursue some false dream, some false ideal, some false sense of success and stability that never found me any stability whatsoever. And I just decided to do my own thing. And everything instantly and immediately fell into place. Because I realized that every single failure was a failure because I wasn't paying attention to me. I wasn't focusing on me. I wasn't focusing on what I was good at. I wasn't focusing on what my purpose was. I was focusing on other people's interpretations, other people's ideals, a predetermined framework for what a successful artist is. And by allowing myself to no longer be a part of that gang, allowing myself to not being part of that clique, I honestly, looking back, feel that was the day I became an artist. Because this day I gave myself permission to think for myself. It was that day that I gave myself permission to identify who I was as an artist. What art meant to me. What artistic expression meant to me, what artistic education meant to me, what an artistic career meant to me. And all of a sudden I started to take ownership of all of my own decisions. I wasn't producing art that I felt would make me more marketable in a studio. No, I was making art that mattered to me. I was making art and I was expressing myself in a way that felt authentic to me. And I felt selfish doing it until I started to succeed. It was almost as if it felt like I was cheating. It felt like I was doing a bodybuilding competition and I was on steroids. I was cheating. Because it was just, life can't be this easy. And, well, the rest is history, right? I started a YouTube channel, and every single different path that I make, every single different decision that I made moving forward was based off of professional experience through the good and bad experiences I'd had in the past. So it wasn't just foolish, I'm going to follow my dreams type of thing. No. They were educated, thoughtful choices, but they were my choices. And I had confidence in the choices that I made. And the more I did it, and the more I succeeded, the more confidence I started to have. And all of a sudden, I started to realize I am a failure. I was a failure my entire life at being myself. And now I was being myself. Now I was truly, as Brad Bird would say it, I was now finally, for the first time in my life, using every part of the buffalo. I wasn't squandering the entire skeleton because I wanted a horn. No, I was using every part of the buffalo. And it was amazing. And it's been amazing ever since. And it's been the most enjoyable ride of my life. And when I reflect back on Gerald Undone, or Gerald, his last name is not Undone, but Gerald. I'm not sure what his last name is. And Josh Yeo and Peter McKinnon and Matty Hapoya and PewDiePie, Felix Kidilbergi, right? And all these different people who have made incredibly good names of myself, they all have the same thing in common. They're all really good at being themselves. And not only that, but it's one of the things they're very often loved for. If you look at any of these people, all these big names, big players, they're all loved for being so, quote, authentic. Why are they authentic? Because I guarantee you that every single one of these people that you look up to, all of these, quote, influencers, which is such an ironic title to call people like that influencers, earned their authenticity by being utter failures in a lot of, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, before they were allowed to get their success. They had to lose themselves before they could find themselves. As I'm discovering at this very important point in my life at 46 years old, I'm for the first time in my life discovering who I am. And I'm the first time in my life indulging in me, and not feeling guilty for allowing myself to be myself. And through that, I found a form of artistic expression that resonated with other people, because my art is a reflection of myself. Your art is a reflection of you. And how can you communicate in a meaningful and authentic way to your audience if you're not being authentic with yourself? I mean, it's just logic. But it's a logic that is lost to a lot of us because we're seduced by the big AAA title. Those three letters draw us into our own demise in a lot of cases. Not for everybody. Some people thrive in those environments. Some people are big hotshot successes, and I'm so happy for these artists. But for a lot of us, they don't. And what I want you to know today, if you find yourself at a point in your life, particularly if you've been doing this for a little while, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, if you've been doing this for a while and you always felt like you were kind of just never good enough, or you felt like you were constantly trying to find what job was best for you, and you've wasted decades of your life doing that, I want you to sit back. I want you to sit back and think for a second and ask yourself if following somebody else's leadership is really the way you want to go. Maybe you should start listening to yourself for the first time in your life. Maybe. And the irony of having to share this epiphany with you is the fact that I'm talking to artists, aren't I? I'm talking to artists right now. I'm not talking to a team of accountants here. I'm not talking to engineers who are all learning a certain type of structures, preset structure. No, I'm talking to artists. An artist is a creator. An artist is somebody who is designed to invent. But we don't invent. We've been led to believe that we need to fit a mold, when in fact one of what artists should be doing is inventing their career, designing their career based around themselves. Think about that. Think about that. And I want you to understand something. If you have a passion and a love for art, if you live and breathe and are excited about about art, despite the fact that it's been kicking your ass for a certain length of time, I want you to understand that the very fact that you're still in it, despite getting kicked on your ass, means that you're in the right place. You're just probably looking in the wrong place. Now let me throw a little bit of a balance into this conversation, because you are listening to this message coming to you from a middle-aged man who's been in the game for almost 3 decades at this point. I've been in this game for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things at this point in my life, and I've reached a point where, you can't. I know that if I shared this same message with you 20 years ago, when I was still trying to figure out who the hell I was and was still in the mix of things and trying to figure out whether or not I was somebody suited for the profession or not. If I followed this advice 20 years ago, I wouldn't be here today. I had to experience trying and trying. The whole act of struggling and failing is a very important ingredient to where I am today. I didn't reach this point in my career right now by just saying, screw it, and I'm going to do whatever I want anyways, because I didn't have any professionalism behind me to back it up. I was just, that at that point would just be a stupid, thoughtless, and selfish decision to make. And there would be a much greater chance that I would fail, and I would fall flat on my face, and I wouldn't get back up again. So no, I did have to try and try again and try again, and I had to fail multiple times for the lesson to burn into my soul that this wasn't the right way to go. And also for me to be able to make that, quote, selfish decision to do it my way, but do so with decades of professional experience behind me. But when you do, the crazy twist of fate is you as soon as you find yourself this way, and as soon as you do find your niche, and as soon as you do start to thrive and create your own ecosystem and build your own artistic style and your own artistic voice, and you start to lead your own path, and maybe even lead the paths of others by being a teacher, or by being a director, or by being a studio owner, or by being the founder of some kind of an important movement in the field, by being a voice in the field, that all of those opportunities that you chased after start chasing after you. They do. It was absolutely mind-boggling how at a certain point I would be sitting there teaching a class, and I'd get an email from somebody saying, "Hi, we represent such and such a studio. We saw your stuff. We really like it. Would you like to work for us?" And I would have to say, "Sorry, I'm busy. I run a school." When had I gone back 10, 15 years before, I would have gone, "Oh my God, yes, please. Here's my firstborn. Please take me now." And now here I am 20 years later going, "Thank you. That's really awesome of you to offer. But, unfortunately, I've got other things." Now, of course, I wouldn't do that to every opportunity. Some opportunities I would absolutely jump on. And I do jump on because they definitely fit me and I can work them into my schedule, but I choose. Now, is it all peaches and cream? Is it all unicorns and rainbows? No. There's good days and bad days. But here's the thing. I understand why there's good days and bad days. I'm not in the shadows. I'm not in some deep abyss trying to climb my way out, having no idea how to find air. I'm not struggling. I'm aware of what's going on. I know why things succeed and fail. And I do feel I have a certain amount of ownership and control over that process. And if I don't, I know why I don't. I'm not sitting here conflicted on why do people keep slamming the door in my face. No, I know exactly why people are slamming the door in my face, and I've deserved it, and I probably wanted it. And if I didn't want it, it's because it made perfect sense to me why it happened, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm going to, yeah, that wasn't my thing. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that. So what I'm telling you today is, if you love something, if you fully love something, if it's something that matters to you, number one, it'll continue to matter to you even when you're face down in the mud, blowing mud bubbles. So that in and of itself, whether you find yourself at a point in your career where you feel you're, quote, succeeding or failing, you are succeeding in the sense that you are validating the fact that this is legitimately, quote, who you are, because you're willing to get your ass handed to you. You're willing to get spanked a little bit once in a while. If you have tried and failed time and time again to fit in, and you're not fitting in, I think the bottom line is you weren't meant to fit in to that group, or that one, or that one. Instead, you're meant to make it. You're meant to create. You're a creator. You're an artist. And your success and your validity is entirely wrapped around your sense of self, your integrity, your connection to oneself. And I strongly recommend you look inward for your success rather than outward. I really strongly believe that. All right? With that said, thank you very much. I love you all with all my heart, and happy painting. Take care.